Okay, this week's been a bit more challenging for me, but overall, I think I'm still doing okay. I think that I don't think that it's just really me. I think most people are now starting to really kind of feel agitated and feel that the impact of what we're experiencing as our new normal. So this is not, I mean, I know I'm not the only person who feels this way. Last night I was on a call with Dr. Fujan Zain and her program, um, and a lot of professionals were on this Zoom call, and that's what it was. I mean, they all felt, I think it's kind of a universal feeling right now for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And you're in California, and I don't know what's going on there, but here in the East Coast in Virginia, we just received the 60-day, stay at home order. So, and I think that order on its own, even though like on a daily basis, it doesn't have much of an impact, it hasn't. But the fact that I know that this is now going to go on for 2 more months, I think that had some psychological effect and an impact on just how I'm going on about my day. And I know you share some similar feelings as well.
Yeah, I definitely, this week has been more challenging than others. And for me, the whole agitation piece really got strong. I'm one that likes to go work out, go to the gym, play volleyball. I'm very active, and I haven't been doing that. And I noticed that, I get it. Like I'm not holding myself accountable, and I'm not putting it in my schedule, making a priority. So I want to say like the earlier part of this week, I was just agitated, and I was taking it out on my husband, my mom, and I could just tell, every little thing was making me just like frustrated and annoyed. And so I realized for me, I need an outlet. I need a way to just go out and do something active. And for me, that's because, I love working out because I get to scream. I push myself and I scream, or when I play volleyball, I'm like running after the ball and I scream. And so that allows that energy to get released. Well, we're not really doing that. And on top of it, like you said, like the entire world right now is dealing with this uncertainty. And of course, that's going to be even more agitation added onto it, because we get other people's energy. So finally I did go biking, and I pushed myself to the point I made myself just scream going uphill, and I felt so much better. So that's like actually one of the things I wanted to share is, just do something that makes you scream, even if that means taking a pillow and yelling in it. One of my friends, she posted a live and she was like punching pillows, and she felt so much better afterwards. She went live and was punching pillows on live. And it's a great way, in my opinion, to just find something to release, and it'll make a huge difference right now. It's like the best we can do, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that this feeling cooped up also has made our energy feel very much like cooped up. It's becoming like the energy doesn't have an outlet. Mm-hmm. So it's easy for us to be agitated. It's easy for us to feel very, I don't even know what the word would be, but these are like almost like new feelings that are coming up that I've not experienced ever before.
Yeah. Well, we've never been through something like this ever before. It's like.
Well, and it's interesting because I thought, well, I'm introverted enough that that if I experience these things, or I'm introverted enough that this is not going to be like a major effect. It's not going to have a major effect. Well, I'm also extroverted enough that I am truly missing social interaction, right? Mm-hmm. So, yesterday we were walking Toby in our neighborhood, and, we saw this lady. She had a similar looking dog, and she's like, "Was it your dog that bit my dog?" And I'm like, "No, it was my dog doesn't bite," but even that conversation I turned it into a pleasant conversation finally and let the dogs meet each other, while we're standing, whatever. My leash is 4 feet. Hers was probably 4 to 6 feet. Hers was longer apart. But I mean, I wanted to stand in the middle of the street and talk to this lady. And normally, like, I'm just too busy, for that. It's like, hi, no, not a friendly dog. And then like keep walking. But I'm noticing that these interactions are important, and we're seeking them.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to seek them. So,
Yeah.
so I think it is energy just not being released. You're right. It is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's like one of the things, with that is like you say you're introverted, extrovert. I'm like 90, probably 8% extroverted. So that's why I'm like, I need some outlet of some kind. One of the other things and we've talked about this to some extent, is, those Zoom parties and those happy hour parties. But I do notice people are starting to do that even with working out to hold each other accountable, and or dance parties, So it's like, what can we do to continue having these social interactions, even though it is through a screen? But it's better than, nothing at this point, because even this, I still feel connected to you,
Sure.
So yeah, it's definitely been an interesting time. And when you told me about the whole 60-day order, I was like, I'm like, is that going to come here to California? I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that when I heard this news, I was just like, oh, okay. Oh, and then the emotional impact follows. And so this week's struggles for, I think, a lot of people is exactly that. It's like this new normal of, oh my gosh, what exactly is going to happen now, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is this new normal? What is it exactly, right? And so, oh, my sister just joined.
Oh, yeah, stop. Nice to hi.
Yeah, she just joined.
I'm gonna mute. Hi. I'm gonna mute you, okay?
Hi.
Hi, Austin.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I can't give you guys video. I'm exercising right now, so.
Hey, that's what we were just talking about, so that's great. The outlets.
You can mute them because she has her kids around her.
Yeah, I just muted her. Yeah, so I think this is, a great time to talk about the outlets, like what are, what's unique to each person. For me, like I was saying, right now biking is being, is that biking uphill. It pushes me, and it makes me scream through it, and it allows me to release whatever energy is there. I'm not an angry person by any means, yet we're just all what the heck is going on, and we all need an outlet. Otherwise, as we've talked about, that whole that's like what it is, right? That dis-ease within the body. Mm-hmm. And the last thing we want is this to create any other type of disease, because of that dis-ease. So
well, one of the things that I have talked about over and over and over this week with you, I've talked about it on other medias that I've gotten on, is one of the things that we want to be extremely careful and cautious about is that we don't allow this time to invite other problems and issues into our lives. This is really important. So to be conscious of what we're experiencing, to be conscious of this new normal, and how can we really, rather than inviting, because it's an invitation, whether it's positive or negative, we know that it's an invitation, right? Yeah. So how can we stay more focused on inviting positive things into our lives rather than negative? It's very important. I know that alcohol use has gone up, right? Yeah. People are drinking a lot more. Like, they're at home, they feel bored, they don't know what to do with their boredom, so they're boozing up, right? That is a really that's a very negative thing to invite. And let's not forget that any behavior that we continue to do over and over and over again becomes a habit, right? So again, to be very conscious of not inviting these unhealthy habits into our lives is important, right? so now that my sister's on, I know her kids are also probably listening. So I've enjoyed kind of watching them because they've created different places in their home, like the garage is like where they all exercise and they're cooking together, and the kitchens for, and workspace for the kids. But it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming for them. It's overwhelming for everybody. And so I think that really just kind of tuning in to the present moment. And for people who have kids, I mean, I know almost everybody, I think, who's on here except you and I has kids, right?
Yeah.
Exercising is one of probably the best ways to kill a couple of hours worth of time. You can go for long walks. You can go for...
And kids can come with you with that.
Exactly.
And
right.
I know my cousin, like she's been posting, Sonia, I don't know if you remember. Yeah, Sonia. So she's been, posting of her husband, David. They're doing exercises and like the kids are following him and doing like the exercises with him. And I think that's also a great way to just create those healthy habits. We're in that creation mode right now. And like you're saying, we can either create unhealthy habits or create healthy habits. Yeah. It's that time right now.
So I'm wondering if anybody wants to share anything. You have control of all of that. I don't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I can unmute, or you can, actually anybody can unmute themselves, really.
Well, I just did, if you guys don't mind. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please.
Okay, so what I did, out of panic, I have to say, because I am a fitness instructor. So what I did, like, I think about a week into getting the notice that we were getting locked down, not so much locked down, but just, stay at home orders, I actually went and invested on a spin bike because, I mean, the amount of exercise I do normally in a day was not going to cover it if I were to just go and, walk outside and all that. So I did that plus, other equipments because especially like with the girls and stuff, the amount of energy that they use during the day at school based on their activities and the amount of sitting around that we have right now at home, you can like physically see them by the end of the day. There's just so much going on in their body and they don't know what to do with it. So they are actually using the spin bike too, because they just kind of get on there and they pedal and they don't think anything of it. It's just a fun new toy that's in the house, but it's just, it works so well for them. I mean, there are days that I see, one of my girls loves to sing. So the days that I see her like going all day singing, I tell her, I'm like, go get on the bike, pedal for 20 minutes. And it works. It seriously gets all that pent up energy out of their system. And it just kind of calms them down a little bit. And for me, I mean, this was a lifesaver. I think I would be crying right now if I didn't have it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I'm currently on it.
Feel that. I seriously think I was going to punch something or someone up until 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So you see how much
Mama.
You need to,
Mama.
Sarah, you need to mute yourself.
Oh.
Sarah, you need to mute yourself.
Yeah, I'll mute her. It's okay.
I did.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't you mute her? Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome, though. That's
my sister and I have very different lives. I mean, she's fully active, constantly outside, constantly doing stuff. Where my work is like constant sitting. But even though that my work, as a therapist, as a clinician, is to sit for long hours during the day, this exchange of energy isn't happening. This release of energy is really not even happening for me, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really important to pay attention to this.
Yeah. And I mean, because one of the things I always share with my clients is, having an anger list and a sadness list, right? Is just like ways to be able to release that and really get to, like I was saying, whether it's just screaming in a pillow or punching a pillow or screaming in your car, whatever it is, to still be able to get the energy out somehow or another. And I've noticed that with some of my clients, it actually has made a huge difference in their recovery. The ones that are going through, the health struggles and whatnot, it's made a mass, because again, the disease is what creates, the cancers, tumors, and whatnot. And I've noticed.
Can you share about the dis-ease and how
yeah.
that? Can you? I think actually, like, this is really a great time to talk about that.
Yeah.
Really, I think it's really, really important. And again, I think that my sister is not muted, so you can go ahead and mute her again.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, why don't you talk about dis-ease in our body?
Absolutely.
How it leads to disease.
So pretty, like, from all the, so a little bit about my story, because I don't know if everybody on here knows about my story. About 2.5 years ago, August of 2017, I was diagnosed with a massive brain tumor, and I went through brain surgery, went through chemo, radiation, you name it, I did it. Conventional, non-conventional treatments, all of it. And I've been doing a lot of research and learning, where the root cause of diseases, cancers, tumors, and all that come from. And what everything points to outside of, the MD realm, outside of the Western side, what I've learned is that it's all rooted in our subconscious. And when we have a subconscious belief of some kind, like, for instance, with my tumor, I'm very clear I created it, and it was a lot of anger and just pent up anger, resentment that I had. Then I had this belief that the universe is a hostile environment, and that triggered something, and that was the tumor. So that is the dis-ease, when there is these different, when there's unease in your body, dis-ease, right? And you don't vent it out, you don't release it, then it triggers something within the body. And I know we've talked about Louise Hay many times. I love Louise Hay. I have her book. It's called You Can Heal Your Life. I'm sure you know of it and
yes.
have it. Okay. I use that all the time with, clients and whatnot. And I always look and see what it is. It's like almost like a dictionary, I would say, of all kinds of different ailments and illnesses in there. And even just pains, like lower back, for instance, it will say, lower back is related to finance or love issues. So it's like really interesting that every part of our body actually points to the subconscious belief that's there. And then with that, she also always has an affirmation that goes with it that would be the subconscious belief to have. So one of the reasons I talk about, oh, nice. Caution says that book is right on, and I love it. I love that book. I have the iBook version of it, but yes, it's awesome. So when there's diseases within the body and we don't release it, we don't vent it out, we don't have an outlet for it, then it's going to show up somewhere in our body. That's the dis-ease is actually disease, right? It's no different. And like, that's.
Yeah. I remember when I was introduced to her work through a patient of mine about maybe 8-9 years ago now. And I remember initially when I was reading her book, I was like, this lady's like out to lunch. What is she talking about? Right? Because it's so different. It's so dramatically different from how we've been raised, and I mean, I can say for myself, I was raised in a family that there was a lot of love. There was a lot of stability, that stuff existed. So it's not that I came from a family that it didn't exist and I was so unaware. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it was such a new way of thinking, and it felt so radical that I rejected it initially. I was like, what is she talking about? Like, you want me to stand in the mirror and say, I love you? Like, is that even a question? Like, of course I love myself. But, as I did the work, you really recognize that you're so disconnected from the self. we're clearly very disconnected. And as you do the work and you start to connect, then you're like, oh, okay, I know, now I understand what she's talking about. And it's really a process. It's a process of learning and getting to know this way of thinking, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I remember that when I read in How to Heal Your Life that we create disease. That's when I was like, she's really out to lunch. Like, why would I, create disease? Like, I'm not. I mean, get out of here, right?
Yeah.
But in all reality, we do, and it's based on a thought process. It's based on what we've learned from our past, people who raised us, right? And they didn't do this on purpose to hurt us, but these were the limitations that they had, that they passed down.
Well, and it could be others outside of our parents. Like for me, my teacher was one of the biggest parts in my life that completely shifted so many beliefs for me, because she called me stupid. I don't know if I ever shared that with you in front of class. Yeah, so like for me, I mean, again, through all the personal development, the transformation work that I've done, I discovered that when my 5th grade teacher just said, oh my God, Anushka, you're so stupid. How did you make it to the 5th grade? It completely changed so much of me in so many ways. And it literally created a different path for me. Right? Because I had to prove that I'm smart. I had to, I would get triggered if people called me stupid. I didn't like it when people laughed, because all the kids laughed. So, and then of course I didn't want to be made fun of. So all these things were created, and it just happens in so many ways. Sometimes it's people, kids, other kids, right? Like a kid doesn't want to play with you, and all of a sudden you make it mean something as a kid. All that can make a huge difference. So it's like totally, it could be parents, it could be siblings, it could be anything in childhood, right?
People who have a significant role in our lives. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a really, I think that her work and the discovery that it allows us to do in a very simple way, helps us identify the dis-eases in our life, right?
Absolutely.
And so in any event, I mean, this is not.
Well, and it's empowering too, though, right? To know that you create the disease, because then you can uncreate it. That's very empowering. So when I realized, because I also had done other transformation work as well, that, to me, it's all the same, just different languages. And and the work I did was, again, it was about, we create our reality. Our words create our reality. It's landmark worldwide. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I'm very familiar with
that. So I did that for a few years, thankfully, before my whole brain tumor journey, because it allowed me to be super present and just really get that, okay, what is actually happening, without making all this meaning about it, which is why I was so empowered through the whole, journey, really. And for me, it's like, well, cool, because if I created it, then I can uncreate it. I can heal myself. And I believe every person has the ability to heal themselves when they take on mind, body, spirit, right? So that's like my belief system, and that's where I come from.
So like this book of hers, I think you probably are familiar.
Oh, yes.
One day,
I love that book.
I love this book too. And I think I wish I had been introduced to this book before I read the other book, because if you do this 21 days, and I always tell people who have kids, I'm like, start this work with them, do this work with your kids. Like, I learned this in my 30s, right? And
Can you imagine?
and I would have done probably a lot better if I'd done this work, when I was a child. Because again, the root of a lot of our belief systems form as, in our childhood, and we don't even recognize it, right? And we carry these bags with us, these heavy bags with us. And then eventually at some point in our lives, it like manifests into something that, we're like, well, where did this all of a sudden come from? Well, it came from years of carrying this extremely heavy bag of emotions and belief systems that don't fit us well. But let's just get off of this topic and go back and perhaps a few people, and I don't know who's still online, I don't really see that, but if somebody would want to share what they're experiencing, I know we have a few more minutes left.
And I'll see if anybody on live here on Instagram wants to share. Possibly not. Yeah, that's totally fine. And, oh, yeah, it looks like.
Hi, this is Hatun. I just wanted to share that, like you said, this new method of life that's we're going through right now, this is going to be new norm. And they said 60 days, but I expecting it they might extend it even longer. So we have to be prepared. But so we have a moms group on Facebook with a group of my friends. There we vent and everything, and people were talking about the same issue, like what are we going to do? Our kids are going crazy inside the house, we're going crazy. And then all the posts were negative, like everybody was talking about how bored they are, all the negative things. And then one person started a new post and said, under this post only comment positive things about this change. So what positive can you think of, like what's happening right now? And then that was really inspiring to me, because I was thinking like my life has always been on fast forward, like go, no breaks at all. And I've always been thinking like, I wish there was a pause button that I could pause everything and take a break. And now this is that pause button. So I don't have to rush for my train every morning because I was late for it every morning. So,
yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I really, really thank you so much for sharing that, because people ask me all the time, I'm like, I see this as a good thing. I mean, not to say that people going through the coronavirus and all that is a good thing by any means. Lots of compassion for them. And I feel like we needed this as a human race to slow down, to stop being go, go, go and on autopilot, to stop taking life for granted, to have gratitude for our life, you know, and health, and making health first. Like, this is like, for me, the biggest thing that I see. I'm like, let's make health first, because without it, now we see we got nothing, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, keeping positive is huge. That's what these are for, staying positive. And
but that doesn't mean that, and we shared on in one of our other daily shares that we had, we talked about processing emotions. Absolutely. This does not, staying positive does not mean that other emotions don't rise up that are uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. So processing those emotions is also extremely important. Like, yes, it's important in a sense that, you know, we don't want to keep capping it, because when you cap it and you cap it and you cap it, you know, it becomes that pressure cooker process, right? And then you'll explode. So recognizing, and even sitting with the kids and talking about how bored we are or how different it's become, and processing all of that. And then at the very end, talking about something we're grateful about, or something very positive that has come out of this, right?
Feeling the feels, feeling those feelings,
feeling those feelings, you know, and not judging it, and not, you know, and not judging it and saying, oh, well, I should not feel this way because, oh, this is so, I'm supposed to be so grateful that I constantly, you know, now I get to spend all this time with my kids. Well, we're not accustomed to spending 24/7 with our kids, you know,
and our family and everybody around. Yes.
yeah. I mean, I get so annoyed because Toby has a tendency, like, I just have to put him outside to want to be right next to me, and it doesn't matter where I go. And, you know, and there are times that, you know, people make fun of me because I'm like, oh my God, just like leave me alone. Like, stop poking me with your nose, right? And so it's kind of that same feeling of, you know, being overwhelmed, because I mean, I used to get 8-9 hours of break from him, right? Now I don't have that, right? Every time, like, I feel like I turn around, you know, I have a nose poking at me. So, and recognizing it is important, right? It's not his fault. It's not my fault. We have no choice, right? Yeah. And that is like, that's my animal. That's my dog. And the difference between that and, you know, not being used to spending all of these extra hours a day constantly with people that we love most, our families, you know, our spouses, our children, our parents sometimes live with us. Or so you know, these are some of the very, very important things to be present, fully present about, right? That it's not anybody's fault. This is how it is at this moment. Let's be present in it. Let's process our emotions. And then at the end, why not? Why don't we, you know, talk about what we're grateful about? What positive changes this has also brought, right? So processing the negative and discomfort, and then, you know, stating the positive towards the end.
Absolutely. Yeah, because again, when you bury it deep down and you resist feeling it, well, again, that's disease. It's no different. So it does need to, and it's always like, yeah, vent it out, you know, feel the feels, vent it, allow those around you to vent it. And then from there, see, you know, maybe like list 3 things you're grateful for, you know, just leave it on a positive note without, you know, pretending like, oh yes, everything's completely fine, because it's not. We all know this is not normal. No one ever in their lifetime that is alive today has ever experienced something like this. Not one single person.
And as it continues, it will seem more abnormal to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know, Anushka, we're at the end of our time, but I do want
Marianne looks like she wanted to say something
sure,
as well.
yes,
So let's, yeah. Let me see. Oh. So let me unmute. Okay, there you go. You're unmuted. Oh, no. There you go. You're unmuted.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me some time. But I just honestly, basically, I don't have anything new to add, but something that I realized that I'm doing differently in my day-to-day lifestyle, basically. It's just I was very hooked to a particular news channel, CNN, basically, on my daily basis. So every day I had to turn on the TV, and I had to listen to programs starting from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. basically, mostly 7 to 9. But now, and it looks very not intellectual, but I am trying to read instead of watching bad news. So I mean, it's all bad news, unfortunately, and all channels are, you know, basically overloading us with their anxieties and fears and unknown certainties, stuff like that. But that's something that I changed, and it was kind of an addiction for me. The CNN was my addiction. Now I can realize, but I realized that. But now it has been like a week or 10 days that I avoid watching, and I am more into reading their websites, and it changed my overall sleep, overall nighttime anxiety, and I thought I'll just share with other people.
Yeah, I love that, because I stopped watching the news years ago. And I always say news is bad news. If you really are out to if you really want to know what's going on in the world, go search for it, because you can find, the greatness that's out there as well. And I feel like what they share on the media is so, there's an agenda there. So like for me, it's just, I noticed that it always has put me in like a lower vibration. So I don't watch the news, and I actually always recommend not watching the news. So I love that you shared that. Thank you for sharing that, Miriam. I don't know, Samar, you have anything to say about that?
Well, we've created this thing in our home that, we're only going to be very selective as to watching the news for about an hour a day. It's important for us to be aware of what's going on, and, but I don't have to have it all day long. I can just have it for an hour. And we know that the news is extremely repetitive. So I don't have to be subjected to it all day. Fear and anxiety it has projection, right? So if I'm really scared about something, and the language that I choose is of exactly that. It's fear and anxiety, right? And stress. So of course, if I'm speaking that language and I'm sharing it with you, you're going to now experience it as well, right? So our brains, and this is another thing that I always say, our brains is only as good as what you feed it.
Yes.
Right? That's what it is. So if you're constantly feeding it the fears that are around us right now, you're going to inevitably experience it, right? So so that was great that Miriam shared that, because I think it's important to recognize that we have a choice. We can get our information through different sources that it doesn't project us constantly to fears and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to talk about, and I know a bunch of people are on here, that Anushka is an empowerment coach, and I really invite you guys to join her online media, her Facebook, Instagram. You have a YouTube channel. I have followed you for many years now, well, 2.5 years now, really since your journey, your avocado journey started, as I like to call it.
Yes.
And I really benefit. I mean, and I'm not promoting your business. I am promoting the journey that you live your life. I have truly benefited quite a bit from everything that you post, from, your recipes that you post to your empowerment stuff. And I think this is a time to share, actually, if you know, and if you have somebody that you can, that you've been following and you can share it with your group of people, then this is really the time too. So, and if you do want to hire Anushka for her empowerment coaching, you're welcome to do that. But I just want to say that as much as I have benefited from this, in the past few years, I'm sure everybody else, may find a lot of benefits as well. This is great, Anushka. I hope we continue to do this.
Yes, I'm loving it.
This was our second one.
Yes, it was.
Thank you, ladies, all for coming.
Yes, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, my nieces are watching Talan Ayla, let's give a shout out, because, I won't ever hear the end of that if I don't.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining. I definitely am enjoying doing this with Samar as well. You are just such a light in this world, and I'm so glad that we're finally, getting this opportunity to collaborate. And eventually, I know we're going to be having events together.
Yes. Talked about this about 6 months ago, and
then right? It's to come.
Yeah.
It's definitely to come.
It's going to come. Yeah. And we're going to do it in sunny Southern California.
Yes.
All right, everybody.
Thank
have
you
a good
so
rest
much.
of the day. Laugh out loud. Spread the love. Go put your energy, bring it out somehow, and we'll see you next week, and then look forward to our daily posts as well.
Yep.
All right.
Oh,
thank you, guys.
Yeah, you're so welcome, Fatin. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.